Alright, so we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Nun Ches 58. A lot to do today. We are picking up on Nun Zayin Amud Beis 57b at the Mishnah. Our shir this morning is dedicated by our monthly Talmud Torah sponsor, anonymous sponsor in honor of all the members of the shul for their warmth. Weekly sponsor, Hilly and Eli Kagan, in honor of the daf leaders, and Moshe Abramson, who makes it possible to learn the daf remotely each and every day. Yashikach. Talmud Torah, yeah. Sivan, that's I mentioned. Alright, so we'll say with that, let's begin. Mishnah, so remember again, the Gemara comments over here, the Mishnah spoke about the three granos, the three different intervals in which Meiser Behema occurs. So the Gemara says, Mishnah Tlas. So the Gemara will say, ask two consecutive questions. The first is, why three? Why three? To which the Gemara says, very simple, Amar Rabba Bashila, Lekabel Chorfi, Va'afli V'kaiti. Because essentially, animals are born at three different intervals during the year. There are the early animals, the late animals, and the summer animals. Therefore, again, because animals are born throughout three intervals of the year, therefore, Allah Chamais, we have these three granos. So, but why is it? Why these three times? This is actually quite amazing. Top of Nun Ches. But this is actually quite beautiful. In order that behemoths should be available, ultimately, again, for Jews being Ola Regel. I will say that actually this is very interesting. Look at Rashi. Tap Rashi in Ches Amud Aleph. Kadesh te behema mutsuya. Dechevan dein goren meiser behema ad prosa regalim. Umashi inshi behemosan ad osazman. Delol shchatinu ad shiyasrim. Bizman agoren shusamoch loregel. V'nimtza shehei behemas mitzuyos laoli regam. So we'll say, interestingly enough, what the Gemara suggests is as follows: that halacha l'maisa, people, animal owners, would generally refrain from shechting or selling their animals until after Meiser Behema was taken. So what Chazal apparently did was put the intervals for Meiser Behema close to the regalim. This way animals would be available for the Ole Regel. This way again, so you'd go ahead and you do your Meiser Behema, then go ahead and be willing to sell and shecht your animal, and the animals will be available for Ole Regalim. Va'afagav disnan. And even though, again, on a technical level, you are permitted to shecht and to sell animals up until the time of the goren arrives. See, this is actually quite interesting, which is that halacha l'maisa, at the end of the day, the only time you have to do meiser behema is when the goren date arrives. Beforehand, you could sell. Beforehand, you can go ahead and shecht with no problem. Nevertheless, neichale dilis avid mitzvah b'mamone v'hader lizbun v'leichol. Nevertheless, the way most people operate it is you would rather give meiser behema first, and then only afterwards go ahead and shecht the animal or sell the animal. Therefore, in order to ensure that a proper supply of animals would be available for Oli Regalim, they put the granos, they put the intervals for meiser behema close to the Yamim Tovim. So which the Gemara says, Va'amai karile goren. Why does the Mishnah call the three intervals for Meiser Behema a goren? Well, it's like goren literally means like a granary, right? So the Gemara says, why? Like a threshing floor. So the Gemara says, why? The tivla ki goren. Because ultimately, again, once the intervals arrive, so the animals are like tevel. We'll say, what's tevel? So tevel is untithed produce, right? I have produce sitting on the threshing floor. That's tevel. So too, once the intervals arrive, the animals themselves are like tevel that need to be tithed. Okay? The kama pras. And I was remember again, the first opinion of the Mishnah said that the three intervals for Meiser Behema are pros ha-pesach, pros ha-atzeres, and pros ha-chag. What does pros mean? Perish Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, ein pras el pachos mites vav yom. Pras means 15 days beforehand. So according to Tana Kamo, the times for Meiser Behema are 15 days before Pesach, 15 days before Shavuos, 15 days before Sukkot. To which the Gemara says, my mashma, how do you know that pras means 15 days? Rabbi Avau, pros palga. The lashon of pros, right, it will say always means a half. So the Gemara says, palga demai, half of what? Palgo de Hilchos Pesach. We'll say it refers to half of the time in which a person was obligated to go ahead and learn Hilchos Pesach. Yad Desanya, as we learned, Sholin v'darshan b'Hilchos Pesach, kovdim lePesach lamed yom. We'll say the halacha is that we engage in the learning of Hilchos Pesach prior to Pesach for 30 days. So we'll say, so essentially, the interval for Pesach preparation is 30 days. Pros HaPesach, therefore, is what? Is 15 days beforehand. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Shtei Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon says, no, not 30 days, but 2 weeks. So for our purposes, so we see already here that there's a concept of Sholin V'darshin Be'inyano Shel Chag, or I should say Sholin V'darshin Shloshim Yom Kodem HaChag Be'inyano Shel Chag. There's a concept of learning the halachos of a particular Yom Tiv for 30 days prior to the Yom Tiv. Prior to the Yom Tiv. Therefore, again, pros hachag or pros haPesach, the Gemara understands means half of that time. Half of that time means 15 days. Good. So that's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. Opinion of Tanna Kama ultimately is that the time for Meiser Behema occurs 15 days before each of the regalim, tied into the idea of ensuring that there's a proper supply of animals for the Ole Regal. Beautiful. Ben Azai comes along and he disagrees. And these are the words of Rabbi Akiva, I shouldn't say Tanna Kama. That's Rabbi Akiva. Ben Azai comes along, and Ben Azai has 3 different intervals. He says, on the 29th of Adar, the 1st of Sivan, and the 29th of Av. To which the Gemara says, by my come if the Rabbi Akiva Ben Azai, what are Rabbi Akiva and Ben Azai arguing about? Rabbi Akiva Savar, Rabbi Akiva holds like this. Adar HaSamach LeNisan, the month of Adar that comes before Nisan, Zimnin Malay, Vizimnin Chaser. Sometimes it has 29 days, sometimes it has 30 days. Zimnin de Mikla B'yom Lamed, Vizimnin de Mikla B'chavtas. Therefore, again, like this, Rabbi Akiva will say, sometimes ultimately, again, the garden will come out on the 29th, sometimes it'll come out on the 30th. Umishum Hachi Lo Kavia Leizman. And because that Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, we want to make definitive times for the Goren. We don't want it to be that the Goren goes ahead and falls out at different times. So I'll say, so Rabbi Akiva is like this. The problem is if you hinge it on a calendrical date, so ultimately, again, depending, especially when it comes to Adar, it may be the 29th day or the 30th day of the month. If instead, you just go ahead and make it what? A certain number of days prior to Yom Tiv, that always comes out at the same time. The Gemara says, Hakal Kivil Zman. Ben Azai holds, Ben Azai Savar, Ad Adar HaSamach LeNisan LiOlam Chaser. On the other hand, Ben Azai holds that what? That the Adar that is close to Nisan is always Chaser. Right? It's always going to be 29 days. Hilchach Kavia Le Zman B'Chavtes Ba'Adar. Therefore, again, Ben Azai feels confident making the Zman Hagoren on the 29th of Adar. Okay. Be'echa b'Sivan. But why does Ben Azai hold that the second Goren is on the 1st of Sivan? Or as both say, right, remember again, as opposed to Rabbi Akiva, who makes it 2 weeks before Shavuos, Ben Azai only makes it a couple of days, the 1st of Sivan. Aidi delo nefishi. Well, it's interesting enough, Ben Azai says just in the animal cycle, apparently there aren't a lot of animals that are born between Pesach time and Shavuos. So if you look at Rashi says, Delo nefishi, behemus denoldu, mipros haPesach ad osozman. There are not a lot of animals that are born from the 15 days before Pesach until the beginning of Sivan. Therefore, say you don't need 2 weeks. See, in the other intervals, there's a lot of animal births. Because that you need the time to be able to do the proper meiser before the regalim. Apparently, between Pesach and Shavuos, there's a very low animal birth rate, and therefore all you need really is the couple of days before the regel to affect behemas meiser. So the Gemara says, I amrit liktim, b'echad b'sivan, aidelo nefishi, I amrit liktim, le'aser adamati regel, shamilahu. Well, saying if ultimately again you would say to go ahead and bump back the Goren to 2 weeks before Shavuos, what's going to happen? By the time Yom Tiv rolls around, all of the animals will be used up. So you both say, this is going with the idea that livestock owners often would not shecht or sell their animals until after the Goren, right? Until after you did Meiser Behema. So the idea is you want to give them enough time before the Regal to do their Meiser Behema, while still have an ample supply of livestock for the Ole Regalim. Because I guess there's not so much birth during this time of year by Shavuos. If they're doing Meiser Behema for 2 weeks before Shavuos, by the time the Yom Tov rolls around, we're concerned that there may not be an ample supply of animals for the Ole Regalim. Therefore, Ben Azai pushes the pre-Shavuos Goren to the 1st of Sivan. B'chav Tes B'Av, on the 29th of Av, that's his third one, Ben Azai's third one. So Ben Azai the Tameh. So we'll say Ben Azai goes according to his reasoning because he holds the Amar Ha'elulin Mis Asrin Bifnei Atzman. So Ben Azai holds, or we'll say, that animals born in Elul, we saw this in the Mishnah yesterday, kind of form their own Meiser Behema cohort. They are Elul animals, are their own animals. I v'la asrinhu biyom lamid. So why not go ahead and make them? Why the 29th of Av? Why not the 39th? Why not the 30th? To which the Gemara says, Zimnin de mechasrin la'av uba'ina leme avid hekera b'chadash v'yash. Because about to say sometimes, ultimately, again, Av is Malay, and sometimes Av is Chaser. So because of that, we need to choose a definitive date that will always be on the calendar in order to make a distinction, ultimately, again, between the quote-unquote new animals and the old animals, i.e. between the animals of Av and the animals of Elul. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Be'echad b'Nisan, Be'echad b'Sivan. So we'll say, so the third school of thought in the Mishnah was Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, who hold the 1st of Nisan, the 1st of Sivan, and the 29th of Elul. The 29th of Elul. Why do they say the 29th of Elul and not Rosh Hashanah, not the 1st of Tishrei? So the Mishnah said, because everyone knows you can't tithe animals on Yom Tiv, therefore they backed up the Goren date to the 29th of Elul. So the Gemara says, let's analyze this. So we'll say they accepted the 1st of Nisan interval date, like Reb Shimon Gamliel, who held 2 weeks. Okay, the pros. Be'echad b'Sivan kida Amron. Both say the 1st of Sivan, they agree with Ben Azai that ultimately not a lot of animals born in between Pesach and Shavuos. Therefore, I don't want to push back the Goren too far because I'm concerned there won't be enough animals available for the older Regalim. B'chav Tes Be'elul. What about the 29th of Elul? Rabbi Elazar b'Shimon l'Tamahu do Amri be'echad b'Tishrei Eshana l'Meiser Behema. Both say they are of the opinion that what? That on the 1st of Tishrei is really considered to be the Rosh Hashanah for Meiser Behema. So if that's the case, why do they make the Goren on the 29th of Elul, not on the 1st of Tishrei? As the Mishnah said, if Meishu Yom Tiv, because the 1st of Tishrei is a Yom Tiv, and you can't tithe on Yom Tiv. Why don't you say that we need to make a distinction between the new animals and the old animals? And if you go ahead and you make the Goren on Rosh Chodesh, there might be a concern of inability to differentiate between new and old, to which the Gemara says, Chada va'od kamar. In reality, the Mishnah is making two statements. One reason you have to bump it back to the 29th is in order to make a distinction between the new animals and the old animals. Furthermore, Rosh Hashanah, the 1st of Tishrei, is a Yom Tiv. V'afshar la'aser b'Yom Tiv mishum sakarta. Now, both said this is actually a very interesting statement, and you can't go ahead and tithe on Yom Tiv. Why not? Because of sakarta. Rashi says sakarta right across shetzovin ha'asiri. Because again, you go ahead and you apply red paint to the 10th animal. We'll get to this in Meretz Hashem. When the 10th animal comes out, you dab it with some red paint in order to show that's the Meiser Behema animal. So apparently, again, that dabbing with red paint would be problematic on Yom Tov. So we'll say what's interesting about, and the Rishonim will discuss what's interesting about this answer is, we'll say, we already know beforehand that you're not allowed to tithe on Shabbos and Yom Tov, but we'll say for a different reason, nothing to do with the paint, everything to do with what's called Tikkun Maneh. In general, again, you can't do things on Shabbos and Yom Tov that resemble fixing something. The act of tithing, by definition, is called Tikkun Maneh, is called fixing something. So it's interesting that the Gemara over here chooses to point out the red paint, doesn't bring out the Tikkun Maneh piece. Again, some food for thought. Meir says, Ve'echad be'elul, Rosh Hashanah la'maiser behema. Ben Azai Omer, so also remember again, the next part of the Mishnah was as follows. Meir said the first of Elul is the Rosh Hashanah for Meiser Behema. So it's very important. According to Rabbi Meir, he holds the Meiser Behema calendar. Because we'll remember again, one of the interesting parts that we saw is everyone agrees that Halacha L'Maisa, there are 3 intervals for Meiser Behema. Nevertheless, the year creates a Meiser Behema cohort. So which means that if for some reason you did not tithe your animals at any one of the intervals, the animals that are born within the course of 1 year are considered to be one group and are tithed together. So the machlokes, of course, becomes what is the nature of that calendar year for Meiser Behema. So Rabbi Meir holds the first of Elul is the Rosh Hashanah for Meiser Behema. So also, according to Rabbi Meir, the Meiser Behema year runs from Rosh Chodesh Elul until the 29th of Av. Right? That's according to Rabbi Meir. On the other hand, you have Ben Azai says, Ha'elulim mis'asrim b'fnei atzman. He holds, Ben Azai holds, Elul animals are their own cohort. Now, according to that approach, which is Ben Azai and others, therefore, again, the Meiser Behema year really begins from the 1st of Tishrei through the 29th of Elul. So fundamental machlokes as to when the Meiser Behema year runs from. So the Gemara says as follows: Meir Omer be'echad be'elul, Rosh Hashanah Meiser Behema. Ben Azai Omer. So Meir says that for the 1st of Elul is the Rosh Hashanah for Meiser Behema, and Ben Azai says Elul animals are tithed on their own. Tanya Omer Ben Azai Hawil v'halalu omrim kach v'halalu omrim kach. So Ben Azai says, now that there's a machlokes as to what everyone says, Rashi says over here, Hoil v'halalu omrim kach, the Meir omer be'echad be'elul, Rabbi Shmuel omer be'echad b'tishrei, ani yodei halacha kimi hilcha chelum. So also listen to this. So where does Ben Azai come up with this idea that Elul animals are their own cohort? He says essentially because there's a machlokes. The machlokes ultimately is, again, does the new year for Meiser Behema begin on Tishrei? Does it begin on Elul? So Ben Azai says, because I don't know what the halacha is, ha'elulin mis'asrin atzman. Therefore, again, we just tithe Elul animals on their own. I velechse taima diman mistaber. So we'll say, I don't understand. Ben Azai, what kind of approach is that? Why don't you analyze the sugya, right, and see whose svara is better? Ben Azai, in other words, why Ben Azai says we have machlokes, therefore we have to create a new category of Elul animals. No, analyze the sugya, analyze the svaras, and see what makes more sense. Maybe you'll say, well, Ben Azai is not capable of doing this. That's not true. Tanya Ben Azai Omer, Kol Chachmei Yisrael Domin Alai Keklipas Hashum. Ben Azai said, all the other Talmidei Chachamim are to me like the peel of the garlic. Just like the peel is on the outside of the garlic and protects the primary part of the garlic, Ben Azai says the other Talmidei Chachamim of the generation are great, but they are like the peel to me. As Ben Azai was saying, I possess a level of scholarship that surpasses my peers. So Ben Azai, if indeed you do, then analyze the sugya, and see who is correct. To which the Gemara says, Chutz mina karach hazeh, except for this karcha. So we'll say, interestingly enough, Rashi says that's a reference to Rabbi Akiva. Right? Rabbi Akiva, ultimately, again, Ben Azai said that Rabbi Akiva was a greater Talmid Chacham than him. So the point the Gemara is making over here is that halacha l'maisa, Ben Azai has the ability and capacity to analyze the sugya and to figure out who is correct. To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Mipnei Hashmua Amru, Mipnei Chagai, Zechariah, Umalachi. Because I will say, interestingly enough, these granos, and specifically the New Year's, are not concepts based on svara, but rather, again, they're concepts handed down from Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Handed down already from the Nevi'im. So we'll say, so really what they're having a machlokes in is a machlokes in Mesorah. So we have machlokes in Mesorah. This is not really about whose svara is better. This is about, at the end of the day, what did the Nevi'im actually say? Tanya, Be'izit Sad Amr Ben Azai, Halulim Esasun Liatzmo. So we'll say, what's the case exactly according to Ben Azai, where he says that the elulim are tithed on their own? Listen to this. This is actually an interesting case. No dulo hey ba'av ve'hei ba'elul. If you have 5 animals born in Av, 5 animals born in Elul, those 10 animals do not combine to form a Meiser Behema unit. Okay. Hey be'elul ve'hei be'tishrei. So if you have 5 animals born in Elul, 5 animals born in Tishrei, in Mitzdarfin, the animals don't combine. Good. Hey be'tishrei ve'hei ba'av mitzdarfin. Interesting enough, if you have 5 in Tishrei, 5 in Av. Both say now, again, let's be clear. 5 in Tishrei and 5 in Av of that same calendar year, those animals are mitzdarif. Okay, so that we know they're part of the same calendar year. Pshita. So we'll say, okay, all of these cases are kind of obvious. Ma'u detema kiech id mifsiki shanim mifsiki granos. So we'll say, I'm going to thought the same way like this. The same way that you said before, that 5 animals in Elul, 5 animals in Tishrei do not combine. Why? Because they're in 2 different years. I'm going to throw say that essentially the granos divide the animals into different cohorts as well. So we'll say, for example, the animals born before Gora and 1 are 1 cohort. The animals born between 2 and 3 are a second cohort, and the animals born after, I should say, animals born between 1 and 2 are a second cohort, and animals born between 2 and 3 are a third cohort, and therefore they do not combine. Kamash no, they do combine. Animals born within the same calendar year do combine. The granos do not make them into separate cohorts. So the Gemara says, Kamash lanki disnan chamish lefnei Rosh Hashanah v'chamish la'achar Rosh Hashanah ein mitzdarfin chamish lefnei agaron v'chamish la'achar agaron hare elu mitzdarfin. There will say animals born in different calendar years or different Meiser Behema years do not combine, but animals born during different Goren stages in the same Meiser Behema year combined to form a Meiser Behema unit. Amar Rava, the Divrei Ben Azai, no dulo chamish, was according to Ben Azai, who says that the Elul animals are tithed on their own. So no dulo chamisha ba'av v'chamisha be'elul v'chamisha be'tishrei. Let's listen to this case. You have 15 animals, 5 born in Av, 5 born in Elul, 5 born in Tishrei. Then I will say, now here's what's interesting in this case. So we'll say, so what's the suffix in this case? Well, according to Ben Azai, what are we not sure about? Who do the Elul animals belong to? Right? Are the Elul animals part of the previous year, in which case they could combine with the Av animals, or the Elul animals part of the next year, in which case they could combine with the Tishrei animals? So that's machlokes. So we'll say, so Rava says a great chab. According to Ben Azai, if you have 15 animals, 5 Av Elul animals, 5 Elul animals, 5 Tishrei animals, what do? Konson l'dir lehisaser. You put them all in the pen together. Amud Beis. V'notel echad min ha'elulin v'ashar p'turim mimanav. And I will say, what can you do? You could take one of the Elul animals, and the rest of the group is good. Mimanav shach. Right? Why? I be'echad be'elul Rosh Hashanah de'elul v'tishrei mitzdarfin u'da'af p'turin. Because what's mimanav shach? If you hold that the new year from Meiser Behema begins on Elul, that means what? The 5 Elul animals and the 5 Tishrei animals combine. And what about the Av animals? They're pater. Why are they pater? Because you only had 5. Right? On the other hand, V'echa b'tishrei Rosh Hashanah, right? And if you hold that the first of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah for Meiser animals, the Av ve'elul mitzdarfin, then the 10 of Av and Elul will be mitzvah for the Meiser Behema group, and the Tishrei B'turin, and ultimately again the Tishrei ones will be pater. So the Gemara says, "My amrit l'tzarfa l'go." I'm sorry. So the Gemara says, "My amrit." So what would you have thought? What would you have thought is the issue over here? L'tzarfa l'go and acher. I might have thought that halacha l'maisa. Maybe I should have to go ahead and combine these animals with a different goren. And we'll say, look at Rashi for just a moment. My amrit l'tzarfo hara chamish l'tishrei l'goren acher im osan shiyodu la'acher kain ba'osa shana atzma v'yitzarfo posa pesach. I'm afraid of saying in this kind of case, maybe I should have to take the Tishrei animals afterwards and combine them with another goren. To which the Gemara says, no. The pasuk says, Asirei vadai amrachmana v'lo safek. To which the Gemara says, when it comes to Meiser Behema, the only animals that you are obligated to tithe is the Asiri vadai. are animals that are part of a definitive cohort, but not suffix. And therefore, say in this kind of case, these animals are suffix because you're not sure exactly which year they belong to. To which the Gemara says, Pshita, Ma'udetema, Ligzer, Dilma, Asi, the Mishkal, Mehani. So we'll say Mehanach. So we'll say, so what's the Chiddush in this case? In other words, once you speak it out, it's not such a Chiddush. So the Chiddush we'll say is that this whole thing only works if what? If you take an Elul animal. Right, we'll say meaning the case of the 15, 5 Av animals, 5 Elul animals, 5 Tishrei animals. You're going to get them all together, and I will say the only way it works is how? Is if you tie them with what? One Elul animal. It has to be an Elul animal. Why? Because Manav Shach, if Tishrei is the new year, then Elul and Av are mitzdarfin, they're 10, you take an Elul animal. If Elul is the new year, then Elul and Tishrei are mitzdarfin, 10 there, and the 5 from Av are pater. Either way, you have to take an Elul animal. I would have thought that I must be concerned that maybe I'll end up taking a non-Elul animal, in which case the whole thing doesn't work. Kamash, we're not concerned. I will say, now the interesting question is, how exactly is it that you ensure that you take an Elul animal? Or as we're going to see this mamish the next Mishnah, that the way you go ahead and you take Meiser Behemoth, you gather the animals into a pen, and they come out by themselves. So there's an interesting machlokes Rashi and Tosas here. Look at Rashi, Tap Rashi and Nechesam Abayz. Rashi says, "V'noto echam min alulin, v'lo sheyichavin v'yotzenu ba'asiri." You can't purposely take out an Elul animal as the 10th animal. Daksiv lo yivaker, because it will say the pasuk by Meiser Behemoth Dafka says that you cannot specifically choose one animal over the other. Ella kimeduma kegon shemanaan revutzin o omdin dahashta. I'm supposed to watch this. So what Rashi discusses in this case might be a difference, and in this case, instead of having the animals go ahead and come out of the pen, what you do is you line them up. And as you're lining them up, you go ahead and you say, of course, because we're not one, not two, just kidding. Right? Right? And I will say, what do you do? In that case, Rashi points out, you can go ahead and designate the 10th animal, dafka, as an Elul animal. So according to Rashi, this case of the pointing Meiser Behemoth is what he calls revutzin. While the animals are standing around, you designate an animal ultimately again as Meiser Behemoth. Tosas says something different. Tosas says, top Tosas, v'nolta echam min alulin, v'lo shayich le'eser kan mishum lo yivaker, kid aser afuki b'amum. So Tosas says, this case is an exception to the rule. Under normal circumstances, you are right. You're not supposed to actively choose, which also makes sense. We don't want you actively choosing which animal is going to be the Meiser Behemoth. Why? Because the farmer would be very tempted to choose a weaker animal. This way, again, generally we leave it to quote-unquote chance. We put them in a pen, they run out one at a time, and you put the little red paint on the 10th one. Tos says this case is an exception. Because of this case, you have a little bit of an extenuating circumstance. Ultimately, again, you can arrange the animals, and you can choreograph it that an Elul animal comes out number 10. So fundamentally, Rashi says, we're not having the animals run out of the pen in this case, we're going to count them off while they're standing, select an Elul animal. Tosa says, no, it's no problem. You could set it up that an Elul animal comes out of the pen number 10. Beautiful. Says the Mishnah. We'll say, here we go. Be'ezit sad ma'asrin. We'll say, how is it that we go ahead and we do Meiser Behemoth? So it's always interesting the way the Mishnah arranges this, right? We've spoken so much about halachas. Now the Mishnah says how it actually works. So kon son ladir, you go ahead and you put them in the pen. Va'osalahem pesach katan kadei shelo yihu shnayim yicholim latzeis ka'achos. So we'll say, so what happens? I put them in the pen, and I make sure that the opening is small enough from the pen that halacha l'maisa, two can't come out at the same time. Umonin. And what do? I count Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalid, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Vayotze Asiri, Soker Besikra. And the one that goes ahead and comes out number 10, I dab it with a little bit of red paint. Va'omer Hare Ze Meiser. And I'm about to say, ultimately, again, I go ahead and I make the declarative statement This one is Ma'aser. So we'll say this is actually very interesting. So there are two things that the Mishnah is saying over here. First of all, again, a Ma'aser of dabbing it with paint. That's number one. And number two, a verbal declaration that this particular animal is Ma'aser Behema. Lo sakr b'sikra v'lo menan b'shevet. But say, what happens if halacha l'maisa, you did not dab it with red paint, or you did not go ahead and count it, you didn't count it off. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? O shemanan revutzin, o omdin, or we'll say, for that matter, you counted the animal while they were crouching or standing around. So what's the halacha? Hari elu misasrin. We'll say it works. It works. Even though it's not ideal, it works. I will say, so now, by the way, so now you begin to see, now it's interesting, you begin to understand Shita's Rashi that we just went through before. So therefore Rashi says, in a case where ultimately, again, just having them run randomly out of the pen will not work. Like, for example, in the case of the 15 animals. In the case of the 15 animals, where ultimately, again, you can't have a random animal, but rather, again, you need a specific animal to be number 15, to be number 10. So again, the fact that the Mishnah says, although there's an ideal way to do Ma'aser Behema, and there is an element of quote-unquote chance that is part of this process, when you can't leave it to chance because you need a particular animal, if you end up counting off the animals while they are standing or while they are crouching, ultimately, again, the designation works. Hayulo Meya v'natal asara. Let's say if you had 100 animals, and you just arbitrarily removed 10 of them for Ma'aser Behema, or asara v'natal echad, or without any active counting, you just went ahead and removed one. You had 10, you removed one. Ein ze Ma'aser. But it's actually very interesting. Look at Rashi. V'natal asara asara kilomar shlomanan echad shnaim gimel ela asara v'asachas noto b'chol pam pam mikol asara natal klechal Ma'aser ein ze Ma'aser mishum d'tzarech limnosan kedei she'eh asir leminyan hakodesh. Supposed to here's what's interesting. Although you could go ahead and technically designate Ma'aser Behema without the animals running out of the pen, there must be what? There must be a count. So therefore, again, so if I know I have 100 animals and I just walk into the pen, I just remove 10, that's not Ma'aser Behema. I know I have 10 animals, I'm just going to remove one, that's not Ma'aser Behema. There must be, and I will say, by the way, now you also understand, right? Why does the Mishnah say, Monin, Aleph Beis Gimel Daled Hey Vav Zayin Ches? So strange, you never see a Mishnah like that. Just say, I count. Because I will say, what is the Mishnah coming to tell me? Halach Lamaisa, there must be a count. There must be an articulated count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, if you come into your pen, I know how many animals I have. I don't have to start counting. I've got 10 animals. One animal is Ma'aser Behema. Just take out an animal. That does not work. There must be a count. Ein ze Ma'aser. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ma'aser. But say on the other hand, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Paskin, no, it'll work as well. It'll be Ma'aser. Kafatz echa min haminuyin l'sochan. But so isn't this interesting case? What happens if halacha l'maisa the following scenario occurs? I'm counting off the animals, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Animal number 6 breaks free, jumps back in the pen, right? What's the problem? I don't know who he is, right? I don't know which animal he is. So what's the halacha? Hare elu peturin. The whole group now is pater from Ma'aser Behema. Look at Rashi. Min hamenuyin me'osin shekvar avru bepesach tachas hashevet af al b'shen adayim usan kigon shemana v'chozer echa mehen v'kafetz l'soch hadir hamenuyin havim petur b'minyan harayis. We'll say so again. We'll see why that is. But halacha l'maisa, if one of the counted animals, in other words, the non-Ma'aser counted animals jumps back in, and I can't identify which one it is, he patters the rest of the flock. If I will say, if the Ma'aser Behema animal jumps back in, let's say number 10 jumps back in, I will say, so you see to yourself, now again, he jumped back in before I got the chance to dab him with red paint. The red paint is not ma'akiv. He jumps back in, then what? See, I understand why he jumps back in, right? That mamish, that one I get, right? He knows what's going on. Kulam yiru achi istavu v'chumu l'banim. Both say, so at that point in time, I now have a consecrated animal that's mixed into my flock. The entire flock has to be left to graze until it develops a mum, and then ultimately, again, it can be redeemed. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanon, be'ezet sad maser konsel nadir, ve'ezet sad maser. So what do we learn in the Brisa? How do you tithe your behemoths? Konsel nadir, you bring them into the pen. V'osel and pesach katan, you make a small opening in the pen. Kadesh liyu shnayim yocholin latzeis ke'echad. We'll say in order that what? In order that two animals cannot go ahead and come out at the same time. Now the Bryce elaborates on this. Imoseyen bachutz vehemi bifnim. You take the mothers of the animals and you place them outside the pen, and the babies, right, the animals that were born, they're inside the pen. So we'll say, why do you do that? V'goos v'yotzos likros iman. And I will say, what do you do? In other words, you need some way to coax the babies, we'll call them, out of the pen. So I say, how do you do it? You put the mothers outside, you put the babies inside, right? The mothers call out to the children call out to the mothers, and ultimately, again, the children go out to greet the mothers. Says the Gemara, V'lif kinu inhu. So I don't understand, why do you need this process? Why don't you just get the babies out of the pen? To which the Gemara says, Ya'avor ksiv v'lo she'yaviruhu. This is actually very interesting, because I will say part of the process of Meiser Behema is that the animals move, quote unquote, of their own volition, and not that they are moved. Just Xeris HaKasav. V'lishti yilahu yarka v'lifkula lo say. So we'll say, so why not go ahead and what? Why not go ahead and put the carrot right in front of the animal, right, and just go ahead and use food to entice it out of the pen? Amravuna gezera mishum lakuach umishum yasam. We'll say ultimately, again, this is gzera, ultimately regarding a bought animal and a yasam. So we'll say what we're going to see is as follows. In order ultimately, again, for a behemoth to be subject to Meiser Behema, what has to happen over here is it has to be an animal born to a mother in your flock. We spoke about this already a couple of days ago. It has to be an animal that is born into your flock. An animal that is purchased, or an animal that is a yasam that doesn't have a mother, is not subject to Meiser Behema. Therefore, I'll say essentially what we want is like this. The fail-safe, or the mechanism to ensure that occurs, is this setup. In order to go ahead and get the babies out of the pen, what do you do? You have the mothers outside the pen, which essentially ensures that what? Any baby that doesn't have a mother will what? Will not be part of the Meiser Behema process. What's the case of a baby that doesn't have a mother? Either Chashom Yasam, right, the mother died, or you purchased the animal. Either way, that animal is not subject to Meiser Behema, and therefore we'll say again, therefore we'll know that because this mechanism will not work with it. Says we'll do a few more lines and we'll stop. So we'll say, and Pasuk says, any animal that passes underneath the shevet, passes underneath the staff, prat l'treifa she'ino overes tachas hashevet. Right? Or I should say, prat l'treifa she'ino overes. Most of these comes to exclude a treifa. Because let's remember again, one of the cases of a treifa is an animal that's missing its leg from the joint down, which obviously would be unable to walk. The same way that treifa is excluded, so too any treifa is excluded from Meiser Behema. Tachas hashevet, underneath the staff, mitzvah limnosan b'shevet. There is a mitzvah to the animal with the staff. In other words, with the staff to do 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Lo mena'an b'shevet, if you did not count the animals with the staff. O shemena'an revutzin, o omdin, or you counted the animals when they were crouching or standing around. Minayin, how do I know that the count is still good? Talmud lomar ha'asiri kodesh mikol makom. The pasuk says the 10th animal will be kodesh. That is a general statement. The 10th animal will be kodesh, even if it's not counted off in the normal way. Ve'ein ela shekara shmo asiri. But I only know that if you call the 10th animal, that it is kodesh. Lo kara shmo asiri minayin. But how do I know that even if what? Even if I don't call the 10th animal, number 10, that is still kodesh? Talmud lomar Yihye kodesh mikol makom. There was the pasuk says it will be kodesh. It will be kodesh means even if you don't call it kodesh, it is still kodesh. Yachol hayalo mea v'natal asara v'natal echad yachol yumusarin. I'm going to thought that if I have 10 animals and just run in and grab one, or 100 animals and just run in and grab 10, then it would be kodesh. Talmud Lomar asiri ve'ein ze asiri. Ultimately, again, therefore, the pasuk says the 10th. It has to be the 10th animal that you count. And ultimately, again, if you just go in and grab one abose, and then what? That's not 10. The designation of 10 abose means that this is the 10th animal that you counted. If you did not count off 9 animals prior to it, then ultimately, again, it is not considered to be animal number 10. All right, but so we'll stop over here. Let me share with you now a short vart from the parasha. So there is a beautiful pasuk. The pasuk says again. Remember, at the end of Parashas Naso, so the Torah goes through the various tribal offerings of the tribal princes, the Nesiim. So it goes through day by day what every single Nasi went ahead and brought. And I will say, we know again all the Nesiim brought the identical gift. So of course there's always the shaila as to why we have to go through such detail regarding the gifts of the tribal princes, if at the end of the day each of them gave the same gift. So I want to share with you just a different insight. So in the beginning of the gift, so this is Perek Zayin Pasuk Yud Beis. So the pasuk says, "Vayhi hamakriv bayom harishon es karbano Nachshon ben Aminadav lamata Yehuda." So the pasuk says, the one who went ahead and brought his carbon on the first day was Nachshon ben Aminadav, who was the tribal prince ultimately for the Shevet of Yehuda. So as I said, the Mefarshim point out something very interesting. By all of the other Nesiim, the pasuk says as follows: By Yom Hasheni, for example, Hikriv Nisal ben Suar Nisi Yisachar. It calls them the Nasi. Amazingly enough, however, when it comes to Nachshon ben Aminadav, who is the first of the Nesiim, it doesn't call him Nasi. Nasi means it just leaves it off, just doesn't say anything. So what's the pshat? So for example, the Chizkuni says, I'll quote you, the Chizkuni says, Lo nikra kan Nasi kadei shelo yizgaya al shekrivo berishon. V'chal acherim nikraim Nesiim. So listen to this. So the Chizkuni says it was done as an act of humility. Nachshon ben Aminadav, don't get too carried away with yourself that you get to go ahead and offer first. Don't let it go through your head. So how ultimately is Nachshon ben Aminadav humbled? The word Nasi is not mentioned in conjunction with his offering. He's number one, but lest you let the number one status, the number one position go to your head, it omits Nasi as a way of maintaining humility. But the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says something absolutely amazing. Listen to this. He says, Kishmo shel Nachshon holech lefanov. We already know Nachshon ben Aminadav. How do we know Nachshon ben Aminadav? His name, his reputation already precedes him. How do we know him? Ki hu kafatz rishon l'soch hayam. Because he went ahead, he was the first one to walk into the Yam Suf. Ushmo haya yoser chashuv me'asher hatoar. His name was much more important than any title. Nachshon ben Aminadav is well known to us before he is the Nasi of Shevet Yehuda. Nachshon ben Aminadav will forever be remembered as the man who was willing to walk into the Yam Suf when no one else was willing to do so. Before the sea split, he was the one who was willing to go. That identity of Nachshon ben Aminadav far surpasses his identity ultimately as Nasi. We'll say, what's the incredible lesson the Baal Shem Tov is teaching us? A lot of times in life, we define ourselves by the positions we hold. Right? A lot of us define ourselves by our careers. Right? I'm a this, I'm a that. Or we define ourselves by other positions of prominence that we hold. I will say, at the end of the day, your positions of prominence and your career are very important things, but they cannot be what defines you. What defines you at the end of the day are your maisim. What kind of person are you? What are the deeds you engage in? What is the lifestyle you lead? What are the things that you're moser nefesh for? What are the things that you're willing to sacrifice for? Who you really are is never defined by where you work or the title in your company. Who you really are is never defined by the positions, even if they're very chashuva positions that you hold. Who you really are is defined by the things that you are willing to do, is defined by the actions that you're willing to take. Nachshon ben Aminadav was the Nasi for Shevet Yehuda, but that was not his defining characteristic. His defining characteristic was, he was a Baal Emunah. He was the man who was willing to walk into the Yam Suf. He was the man who was willing to lead by example. Put your trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and everything will be okay. So when the Torah identifies him, even in the context of the Nasi, the Torah never defines him ultimately as the Nasi. The Torah says, Nachshon ben Aminadav, you already know who this man is. And both say the lesson for us is so incredibly amazing. It is so tempting to define ourselves by what we do for a living, or at the end of the day, by the positions, even of prominence, that we hold. The real self-identity, the real definition of who we are, is never defined by where we work, for whom we work, or the companies, or the prosperity we build. It's never even defined by the beautiful positions we hold for very chashuva organizations or entities. At the end of the day, your true worth and your true value is ultimately defined by what you do, by the maisim you engage in, by those things that you are moser nefesh for. It's great to be a nasi. It's even better to be a Nachshon ben Aminadav. Good Shabbos.